Remember back in the early 2000s when Porsche launched its first ever SUV and a lot of people were really mad about it? And they were like, oh, Porsche can't launch an SUV, it's going to ruin the brand, blah, blah, blah. Well, those people have been found to be embarrassingly wrong because the Cayenne has been a huge hit for Porsche. It's made them a bucket load of money and it's allowed them to keep building really cool stuff like the 911 and the Cayman. The Cayenne is now in its third generation and it's time for that all-important midlife update. We're here in Austria to drive the Cayenne and we've got everything you need to know, including Australian pricing and specification, exactly what's changed about this car, and a whole lot more. So let's get to it. So this is a fairly significant upgrade for the Cayenne and we're going to get to things like design and the engines pretty soon. But first of all, how much is the new Cayenne and is it still pricier than a BMW X5 and a Mercedes-Benz GLE?
The new Cayenne is available to buy right now, but Australian deliveries don't start until the third quarter of the year. So what's new with the Cayenne? The design's been given a tweak, there are big changes to powertrains, the suspension's been improved, and the interior has been given a significant overhaul with a lot of new in-car tech. Unsurprisingly, that's prompted a price increase from Porsche. The price rises range from $2,100 to $14,300 for the flagship grade. Porsche usually launches a model with the core grades and then adds variants like the GTS down the track, and that's what's happening with the new Cayenne. Confirmed grades for now include the entry Cayenne, the E-Hybrid and S in the SUV body style, while the sleeker coupe version is offered in Cayenne, E-Hybrid, S and Turbo GT. That range topper costs a whopping $366,200 before on-road costs, which is about double the price of a Cayenne S. The Cayenne used to be a fair bit pricier than its key rivals, but they've crept up in price recently, so the $140,200 price tag for the entry grade is now only a few grand dearer than the entry grades for the Mercedes-Benz GLE and BMW X5. Equipment additions over the old Cayenne include matrix LED headlights, active parking support, inductive smartphone compartment, new 20-inch wheels on Cayenne and Cayenne E-Hybrid, and tinted HD matrix LED headlights, as well as soft closed doors on the Cayenne Turbo GT. You'd hardly call the Cayenne affordable, but it now lines up a little closer to those other German large SUVs. Check out the written review on carsguide.com.au for more details.
Now, it's not the most dramatic makeover of all time, but the third generation Cayenne was already quite a handsome car, so arguably it didn't really need that much of a do-over. But what Porsche's done is quite effective. It's made for a lot more of an aggressive front end. There's new headlights, a new front apron, and a much more contoured bonnet, and it does look just a bit more butch than the old one. Around the back, they've got a new tail light design that stretches the width of the tailgate, and a new rear apron as well.
Bigger changes are found inside. It gains digital screen tech and a focused design concept from the Taycan EV, and the dash is cleaner than before. The overall look is very modern Porsche and it works well in the Cayenne. There's a nicely designed new steering wheel and the materials are a cut above.
There's been some huge changes in the front of the Cayenne cabin, and that starts with the introduction of the Porsche driver experience. This is a concept we've seen in the Taycan EV before, and basically what Porsche's done is put all of the things that you need the most at your fingertips or close to or on the steering wheel. So the gear shifter, which used to be here in the console, is now sitting here on the dash, which was a little bit weird when I first saw it, but when you actually use it, it's actually pretty good. And there are a lot more buttons on the steering wheel itself. This is a new steering wheel to the updated Cayenne, and you've got cruise at the back there as well. So everything's a lot neater than the pre-facelifted Cayenne. This is quite a nice little setup here. You've got your climate here, which is great that it's not all within the screen. This lovely kind of piano black situation is nice, but I feel like will be very fingerprinty very quickly. Porsche's kept the iconic little grab handles here on either side of the console. I quite like this. I think this is good. And there's also an optional, or in some grades standard, screen for the passenger as well. Storage-wise, it's a bit of a shallow kind of storage compartment in the centre there, but two quite large cup holders here. You can fit quite large bottles. This is not a large bottle, but you can fit large bottles in the door storage as well. And I think in terms of overall quality, it's quite hard to fault the materials that Porsche's used. Everything feels quite high-end, and it looks and feels really lovely. So, second row comfort gets a big tick in the Cayenne. These seats are really lovely and comfortable. They're not mega plush, but they feel and look really, really nice. In terms of storage, again, big bottles do fit down there. You've got a little fold down armrest here with two kind of shallow cup holders and a little mini thing in the middle there. In terms of amenities, you have, of course, the climate controls back here, a couple of USB ports, something for the smokers as well that we don't encourage. Air vents down here and on the B pillar as well, so face level and knee level. That gets a big tick from me. I can't really complain about the level of space back here because I'm 6 foot tall and I'm sitting behind my driving position. As you can see, I've got acres of legroom and heaps of headroom. So you could easily fit 3 adults across here, but if you've got kids, there's also the ISOFIX points too. So a nicely sized cabin that's very comfortable. So what's the Cayenne's boot like? You'll see on your screen right now just how big it is in terms of litres, but as you can see, it's quite a sizable space, and it's got a lot of amenities as well. This particular version we're looking at here has the power folding tow bar underneath that you operate from the side wall over there, as well as the suspension that lifts and lowers to make getting items in and out a little bit easier. And of course, you've got a 60/40 split fold rear seat for extra room.
Porsche has made a couple of big changes under the skin for the facelift. While the entry-grade Cayenne continues on with the 3-litre V6 petrol engine, it gets a 10 kilowatt and 50 Newton metre bump in power and torque to 260 kilowatts and 500 Newton meters. The biggest news is that Porsche has swapped out the turbocharged V6 in the Cayenne S for the updated 4-litre V8. It pumps out 349 kilowatts and 600 Newton meters. The e-hybrid gets a more powerful electric motor, and paired with the 6-cylinder petrol engine offers a total of 346 kilowatts and 650 Newton meters. The flagship Turbo GT Coupe gets an extra 14 kilowatts of power, and so the V8 now pumps out 485 kilowatts for a blistering 3.3 second 0 to 100 km/h dash time. The bump in power and torque has had a negative impact on fuel use, which is up in the base Cayenne by 0.9 of a litre to 10.8 litres per 100 kilometres. No surprise that the Cayenne S now drinks more fuel given it's gone from a V6 to a V8. It's up by more than 2 litres to 12.4 litres per 100 kilometres. Those upgrades to the plug-in hybrid powertrain have seen a big improvement in fuel use for the e-hybrid. It's down from 3.5 litres to between 1.5 and 1.8 litres. That's impressive. The battery gets an extra 8 kilowatt hours of capacity, and it's now 25.9 kilowatt hours, which ensures an electric-only range of between 66 and 74 kilometres. Charging capacity of 11 kilowatts allows for a full top-up in just over 2 hours. On average, the coupe body style is ever so slightly thirstier than the SUV by just 0.1 of a litre.
So I drove the 2nd generation Porsche Cayenne, the facelift, when that launched, and I've driven the 3rd generation when it launched and since then as well. So I've had a bit of experience in the Cayenne and I've always found it a really good thing to drive. But when you're competing with something like the BMW X5, Audi Q7, even the Volkswagen Touareg, all really good things, you know, it's got to be pretty impressive. And you've got to have a bit of a dynamic chops as well. So let's see what this thing can do. I'm currently driving the e-hybrid, which has the synthetic electric sound. which is quite cool, but it's very quiet in here as well. We're on a dirt road at the moment, but on the sealed roads we've been driving on, it's just been so hushed. The e-hybrid's an interesting vehicle. It's got quite good acceleration, particularly at low speeds in urban areas. It accelerates in EV mode. But when you're up and running, the acceleration is not as responsive. There's certainly some hesitation there, and it can be a little bit jerky, but that's really when you're pushing the throttle. If it's smoother acceleration, you should be okay. So this is interesting. We're on a mountain road, it's unsealed, but the ride quality is really good. Porsche's done quite a bit of work to improve that with this update, and certainly where I'm driving now, like, there's a bit of movement, but not much at all. And these are big wheels on this thing as well. The Cayenne is a big car, and I know this is going to sound obvious because it's an SUV, but you do sit up quite high on the road. Not that that's a bad thing necessarily, but dynamically that can be challenging. However, honestly, through some of the twisty roads we've been on today, I've been pretty impressed with how the Cayenne has handled those kind of corners. It remains pretty flat, which is great. The steering in this thing is heavily weighted, but it's also pretty sharp. And actually, for such a large car, it's got a pretty tight turning circle. We've driven in some pretty hairy conditions in the Cayenne today. We've driven in hail, driving rain, it's been quite slippery. I'm surrounded by snow at the moment, not on the road, but it's still a little bit slippery, but the Cayenne hasn't given an inch. It's maintained traction the whole time, which is deeply impressive. Porsche talks about the sporty credentials of the Cayenne, understandably given the brand, but when you've got like a big 5-seat, large family SUV, you generally want a bit of ride comfort with that, and I think Porsche's really struck that balance quite well. You can have fun in this car, but it's also not, back-breakingly firm.
Porsche has added new functions and improved existing elements of its driver assistance suite. The adaptive cruise control function now has an evasive assist function that calculates the best evasion route in an emergency steering manoeuvre around another car or truck. It also gets turn assist at low speeds, and the lane keeping aid has been improved to stay in the lane more effectively. Like the smaller Macan, the Cayenne has not been tested by ANCAP and therefore is unrated in Australia, but it did score 5 stars in European testing. More details on safety can be found in the review at carsguide.com.au. Porsche still has a 3-year unlimited kilometre warranty on the Cayenne, which is off the pace of rivals that offer 5-year terms. There's no capped price servicing plan, but service intervals are every 15,000 kilometres or 12 months. Check out the written review for current service pricing.
The Cayenne is a hugely important car for Porsche, so they can't really stuff this up. And the good news is they haven't. The changes that Porsche has made under the skin and certainly inside the car have had a positive impact. So they've made what was already a pretty good thing even better. For more on the Porsche Cayenne, head to carsguide.com.au.